Number 36. So here we have and we'll use some terms that we talked about early on in this chapter. But we have a third degree trinomial, right? So remember, we can name a polynomial by its highest power, which is the degree. So third degree, and then this has three terms, so it's a trinomial. So we have a third degree trinomial divided by a first degree binomial. All right, and so I wanted to show you this one because if you notice, we start at third degree, then we have a second degree term. We're missing a first degree term, right? And then we go down to the 0th degree term here. So the constant, remember, is a 0 degree because it has the variable to the 0 power, right? Which equals 1 multiplied by it. And so when you're missing a term in the progression or the sequence, then we have to fill that in when we divide, okay? So when we're doing long division. So we would do w minus 2, and then we're going to do w cubed plus 2w squared, and here's where we fill in. We're going to put a plus 0w, okay, minus 3. All right, so wherever you're missing that term, you're going to put in a 0 as a coefficient, and then the variable term that you're missing, okay? So remember, this is to the first power. So now we have 3, 2, 1, and then w to the 0, right? The imaginary or the invisible or implied w to the 0 there, okay? All right. So now, and you'll see why we need to do that, but that fills the place of, that holds the place. So when we divide, we'll have a w term there, okay? All right, so hopefully you'll see why we need that as we evaluate this problem. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the first term in the dividend and divide it by the first term and then divisor, right? So w cubed divided by w. Hopefully this is becoming, second nature to you. But we're going to w cubed divided by w. And so basically 3 minus 1 is 2, right? So we get w squared, and that's what we're going to put up top here. Okay, then we're going to distribute w squared by w squared by negative 2. So we'll get w cubed, w squared times w is w cubed, w squared times negative 2 is negative 2w squared. Okay. All right, so now we're going to subtract. So remember, that means we're going to change both signs. So this w cubed will become negative, and this 2w squared is going to become positive. All right, so remember, I write these above and circle them just so I know that I change my sign when I look back at my work. So w cubed minus w cubed cancels out, turns to 0. And then when I add 2w squared plus 2w squared, I get 4w squared. Okay, and bring down the 0w. All right, so now I'm going to evaluate the first term here divided by the first term here. All right, so what is 4w squared divided by w? And so 4 divided by that invisible 1 there is 4. W squared divided by w is w, or w to the first. And so I'm going to put plus 4w here, right? So since this is positive, don't want to forget the sign there. All right, so now I'm going to distribute 4w times w and 4w by negative 2. So 4w times w is 4w squared, right? Notice how these match up once again. If we get the right value up here, 4w times negative 2 is negative 8w. Okay, so now we subtract. So now I'm going to make this into a negative, and I'm going to make this into a positive, right? So we just change the signs when we subtract. And so these cancel out just like we expect. And so now you can see why we have this 0w, right? Because we want these to be like terms. If we just had the negative 3 there, that wouldn't exactly align. And so, so that's why we hold the place of the term that we're missing in the sequence. Because, when we multiply this here, we're going to end up with a w term. And so we need that, that place there to add or subtract. Okay, so in this case, we're adding 0w plus 8w, and we get 8w. Okay, then we're going to bring down the negative 3. All right, and now we're going to do 8w divided by w. And so that becomes 8, right? W's cancel out. And so we put an 8 on top here. Don't forget that it's a positive 8, so we put a plus. And then we're going to distribute 8 by W. So 8 times W is 8W. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. Change the signs, right? So this becomes negative, this becomes positive. The 8W's cancel out. Negative 3 plus 16 is positive 13. Okay, and that's our remainder because it's a constant. So that's as far as we can go. So we end up with W squared plus 4W plus 8 as our quotient, and our remainder is 13. And remember, if we weren't sure, we could multiply this by this. So multiply your quotient by your divisor, and then you would add 13, and you should end up with your dividend, right? So if you want to check your work, that's how you could do it. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Email them my way or bring them to class.